Good day, all, and welcome to another edition of Local Legislator Live at 11. I am your host, Charles Gates, and we are a component of locallegislator.net, where our mission is to be the premier source of local election information in the United States and an advocate for the sustainability of local businesses nationwide. We have a special treat today. We've got from Suffolk, Dr. Judith Brooks Buck. She is a school board member currently seeking re-election. Good morning, Dr. Brooks Buck. How are you?
Good morning. I'm just fine, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Of course, of course. Again, to our viewers out there, we do call this raw interview, so we are going to jump right in it. No fluff, no filler words. Here we go. Dr. Brooks Buck, Brooks Buck, tell us about you and what is your education and occupation and why are you seeking re-election?
All right. I'm going to say this as quickly as I possibly can because I know, listen, this is 49 years in a few seconds. I am Judith Brooks Buck, PhD. I am from Norfolk, Virginia originally. I've lived in Suffolk for 21 years now. I am a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, class of 1967 in Norfolk, Virginia. I am a graduate of Bennett College for Women in Greensboro, North Carolina. My degrees were in special education and psychology at Bennett College. I earned a master in education degree in administration and supervision with minor emphasis in special education from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And I earned a PhD in educational policy studies from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Let me see, the other things that I've done. I taught and administered programs in special education and what is called regular education, I guess if such an animal exists, in 4 states in West Germany. I was a military wife. I've done educational consulting for the American Council on Education as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I was a professor, a chair of the education department at Hampton University, and I retired from Virginia State University in Petersburg. In between, I worked for business in Portsmouth, Virginia, when Portsmouth got the Hope 6 grant and helped persons who moved from what was Ida Barber and Jeffrey Wilson home in Portsmouth, Virginia. Now it's Westbury and things have been converted. It looks a little bit different, but my job there was executive director, helping persons move from what they called welfare to work. And I'll have to tell you about that study one day when we have more time. But I was going to graduate school at the time and decided that I'd do a survey and found that most of the folks there were not moving to work. Most of the folks there were working already. They were just working low-wage jobs. And my job as executive director of the program, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, was to help them find good wage level work so that they could afford to purchase homes in the new development. And the first home purchased there was by one of our graduates. And she's still there. So I did a follow-up study later. But anyway, that's a whole nother story, and I'll move from there. Then I taught at Hampton and Virginia State, and I do some consulting now. And I worked at Frostburg University for a year teaching graduate courses online. So that's it in a nutshell. I ran for office the first time in 2012. I was really honored and excited. I think I still have the piece of paper because my name was on the ballot with Barack Obama when he ran for the first time. And the second time I ran unopposed in 2012 and 2016. I do have a contender at this time that I'm running. And so here I am.
And here you are, and I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out, since you mentioned the fact that you are a Bennett Belle. My lovely wife, Leilana Gates, is also a Bennett Belle. I know she will be watching this, and I want to make sure I put a shout out there to my lovely wife, also a Bennett Belle. Well, thank you.
And please tell her to join the alumni chapter because I'm president. I'm looking for her now. I'm going to write that name down. All right.
It is now recorded, and you got her name to reach out to her. Now, Dr. Brooks Buck, what is your full name on the ballot?
Judith Brooks Buck.
Judith Brooks Buck. And how do you spell the Brooks Buck?
It's BROOKS hyphen BUCK.
Gotcha. Now, we understand that school board candidates are not required to disclose a political party affiliation. Do you associate with any parties at all?
I do. I've been a Democrat since I've been voting, since I was 21 and a student at Bennett.
Okay. And in terms of your tenure there in Suffolk, have you held any previous public offices, whether in Suffolk or anywhere else?
No, I haven't. I haven't ever held any public offices. I've worked with community groups, but I haven't. That was the first time I ever ran for election
Okay.
in a public office.
All righty. And to our viewers out there, if you like this interview or like to see more like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, connect with us on Twitter and Instagram, and like our Facebook page. And most importantly, leave us a comment. Let us know who you would like to see on our program next, and we will try our best to get that person or that organization on the air. Now, Dr. Brooks Buck, you talked about community involvement. Your community involvement, what has that been and how has that helped you to prepare for this moment?
Well, I've been a part of organizations that are part of the community and work in the community. I'm a proud member of the I. Sherman Green Chorale. One of the things I like to do is sing. And and they've allowed me to be a part of that. The I. Sherman Green Chorale is a group that was started by as you know, schools were segregated when I attended Booker T. Washington High School in Norfolk, and I. Sherman Green was the choir director there for years and years and years. And what the chorale does now, what Mr. Green did was get his singers from this area used to, African-American singers used to go to either Booker T. Washington High School in Norfolk or I.C. Norcom High School in Portsmouth. And so what I. Sherman Green did was get his former singers, some professional, Connie Parker and some of the others who are around here were his former singers. But anyway, what he did was call together some of those, and he formed a chorale in 1972. And so some of those singers still sing. And again, like I said, they allow me to sing with them. And I say allow me because they're really, really good. But they allow me to sing with them. And what we do with the money that we earn from ticket sales and from grants we write, other things, we use it to give stipends to college students who are usually music majors or who are aspiring singers or musicians of some kind, and give them stipends for school. So we've had students from Norfolk State, from Old Dominion, from Virginia Wesleyan, from the community colleges as well, who sing with us. And we perform in different venues. We actually performed at Chrysler Hall with Virginia Symphony. We have done that. We performed at the Norfolk Academy. We performed with students there and performed in different venues, or the Kroc Center at different venues. And then we do a people's concert with different churches in the area. But the object is to help aspiring artists who are singers. And that's one of the things that we do. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. And they do all sorts of service projects to help people to pay it forward. And I'm a member of Shiloh Baptist Church in Norfolk, Virginia, a lifelong member of that church, a member of the diaconate there. And of course, as a member of that church, of that body, we're obligated to do all sorts of things. We have a food pantry, we have a clothes closet. We just do things to try to reach the world and preach the word and teach the way and do whatever we need to do to help our brothers and sisters. So there's so many things that we're proud of. We have a sock ministry now, so I'm going to put in a pitch for that. We have a sock ministry. We give socks to people who are incarcerated in Norfolk City Jail. That's one of the big demands there for socks. People don't even think about that, but it's cold. And we are committed to remembering our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated. You never know We don't question what you're there for, why you're there, or what happened to you. That's not our business. But if you're cold or if you're hungry or whatever, if we say what we say we believe, then we need to take care of those people. So that's something that we do as well.
Well, you know, it's so interesting you mentioned that sock piece because there's a popular sock company out here, internationally famous
That's
company,
right.
whose inspiration is when you buy a pair of socks, they
They
donate
don't.
a pair of socks to the homeless shelter because they, through the research of starting their company, realized that that was the number one in-demand item at homeless shelters. It was socks. And like you said, who knew? You
Mhm.
don't typically, you think it would be coats or something along those lines, something to keep warm. You don't think about the feet. You don't think about the
Mhm.
feet. Now, Dr. Brooks Bucks, let me ask you, if you are reelected, what are your 4 top goals?
Well, my 4 top goals are these. First of all, we need to, when I moved to Suffolk and when I became a part of Suffolk Public Schools, one of the things that I heard was that the schools were just awful. They're in terrible shape. Everything is just awful and blah, blah, blah. And that was just so not true. I mean, just not true. Just totally and absolutely not so. Suffolk Public Schools are excellent. And I decided that it was time to rewrite the discourse, to change the conversation. And so that's my first commitment, to continue to change the conversation about Suffolk Public Schools. Our students do a dynamic job. Just the year before COVID, 2029, all of our schools were fully accredited, all of them. Our students we had less than 1,000 students graduate, 900 and some. They got 24 million, close to $25 million, 24 million plus in scholarships. Our students go to the military academies. The first year I was on the board, I was sitting there for graduation. I started in January. I was sitting at Kings Fort High School for graduation. The salutatorian was going to Yale. That to me didn't equate to this is an awful place to be educated. Somehow it just didn't work out in my head. It didn't work in my head at all. And so I thought, let me really find out what's going on here. And what I found was it's a treasure. There are some wonderful teachers here. We have teacher at Lakeland, just with international acclaim, history teacher, just doing a wonderful job. We have students in our governor's school who are performing on Broadway, who graduate and just do a wonderful job. And I mean, we have dual degree programs with Paul DeCamp. Some of our students are graduating with an associate's degree. That means they go to college for 2 years, have a bachelor's degree. Parents save money. They go on to graduate school. They do quite well. There are so many treasures in Suffolk. Our IB students are performing well on their exams, and the percentage-wise is greater in Suffolk than in several other school districts, and we've been complimented for that. Our kids in our biomedical program, out of the programs across the country, our Lakeland Biomedical Program has received acclaim. We have Purple Star schools for the way we treat our military families, our military children, especially during this time of war that we've experienced in this country. So we need to get the word out. That's the first thing I want to talk about in Suffolk. I've made a commitment, and because I'm so committed to policy, because that's the thing that I do, that's my thing. I've worked with local, state, and federal officials looking at how we can look at legislation that is formulated, at state and local officials, rather, how we can look at legislation that's formulated that impacts us. A lot of times I've found that legislators don't realize what the policies they develop in the legislation looks like when it's implemented in a public school setting. For instance, when you say things like suspensions are limited to whatever amount of days, what it looks like when you put it into practice, no matter what the infraction is. Or what do you have with regard to money? What do you have that we can do with students who have threatened to shoot in the schools? What do you do? What kinds of counseling do you have for them? What kinds of other programs do you have for them? We can't just send them back to school when they said that they were going to shoot the students in school. So what kind of backup do you have for them? What can we tell parents with regard to help that we're committed to? Those kinds of things we need to make our public officials, our legislators on the state and federal level know that you can say that, but we need you to back it up with some funding for the resources that you need to help those kids where they are. We're not trying to throw students out on the street, but by the same token, we have to make sure our schools are safe. And we have to make sure that resources are available to help those students who are indeed having those challenges, those mental health challenges, because we need to do something with them too. And this is the way it looks when you implement it. The next thing we have to do is when we go back to school with COVID, when we think about local, state, and federal level things, our infrastructure here in Suffolk. How do you work with airborne diseases when your classroom has no windows? What do you do? What are you going to do? The infrastructure of Bobby Scott in January, Bobby Scott, and I believe his name is Reed from New Jersey, another legislator, Congress senator, put forth a bill, Rebuild America Schools Act, to put some federal monies aside and some grant opportunities for school systems. No local communities have enough money to put the billions of dollars it will take to rebuild schools that haven't been looked at in years in local communities, because we fund our schools through real estate taxes. And it takes too much money, and no school system, not Suffolk, not Norfolk, not Virginia Beach, not anywhere. We don't have the money that it's going to take to rebuild all the schools and make them what they need to be in any school system. We just don't have the money locally. So we're going to need some state and some federal help to rebuild our schools, to make them what they need to be in this 21st century. And so we're going to have to work with our federal, state, and local legislators to try to get some money and some resources in place so that we can build those facilities. So when the next thing comes along, we're ready to deal with it. And on this level, as a person responsible for governance and for making sure things are in place for resources, we need to get out there and work with those people to, one, let them know what our needs are and make them aware of what things need to be in place. So that's what we need to do. And the other part is, the last thing, is getting our hands dirty. I volunteer at the school in my area. I teach reading at that school because I have the skills. I've done it for years. I was trained to do it. And I teach reading at that school. So as soon as COVID is over, I plan to go back to the second grade class where I work every week teaching little ones who are having some problems, struggling with reading, how to read. I believe it's something that I can do. That's my way of giving back personally. And that's something I like to do. But I'm going to first trumpet what's going on in Suffolk Public Schools, how it's going on. And I'm going to keep doing that as long as I'm here.
Okay. Well, one final question for you. How can we find out more information about you and your campaign?
Well, I have a Facebook page. It's Judith Brooks Buck for Suffolk Public School Board, Nansemond Borough. I have a Twitter account at Dr. B for Nansemond. And so you can follow me on Twitter, or you go to my Facebook page. And as soon as I finish constructing my webpage, I can link that to my Facebook page and you can follow that too. And if you have questions, of course, you can contact me by email at jdec2000@gmail.com.
Oh, well. I think you gave us plenty of ways to get in touch with you for sure. Well, Dr. Judith Brooks Buck, it has indeed been a pleasure. And for our viewers out there, you heard from the candidate seeking re-election there in Suffolk on the school board. You heard her platform. I hope this is giving you an opportunity to make a more informed decision when you go to the polls in November. Dr. Buck, thank you so much. And to our viewers out there, if you like this interview again, make sure you connect with us on all of our socials. You can find us at Local Legislator at all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and LinkedIn. I almost forgot that one. Take care of yourself now. And Dr. Brooks Buck, it is indeed been a pleasure with you. Best of luck to you. Godspeed to you. And to our viewers out there, remember, we're not global, we're local. We're Local Legislator Live at 11. Till next time, take care.